Like, it's different in Michigan because, you know, it's not a winner-take-all in the delegates. So can you still win and lose at the same time, if you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's a smart question. I think in the end, Mitt Romney wins Michigan by 2 or 3 points, but it is possible that Rick Santorum, because his support is more in the rural areas, is the outer part of Michigan, as you go to the edges of that glove that they call it, that it's possible that Rick Santorum actually takes home more delegates, even if he should lose by 2 or 3 points to Mitt Romney. But here's the key point. Romney, it's his home. This is a place where they all know him. They knew his father. They liked his father. The idea that Romney may get only 40% of the vote, and I know that still got 20 minutes before the polls close, at 40% of the vote, that's not a good number at this point in the election cycle. So his campaign's got to be very nervous going into Super Tuesday.
What's dogging Mitt Romney here is that op-ed he wrote, David, about the auto bailout. Without that bailout, Romney wrote, Detroit will need to drastically restructure. With it, the automakers will stay the course, the suicidal course of declining market shares, insurmountable labor and retiree burdens, technology atrophy, product inferiority, and never-ending job loss. Detroit needs a turnaround, not a check. How much is that haunting Mitt Romney in Michigan?
That hurts him, but I don't think that's his fundamental problem. His fundamental problem, and we've seen it across a lot of states, is he is not connecting with voters who earn less than $50,000 a year, even Republican voters who earn less than $50,000 a year. And the problem that he has had is he has listened to advice that has had him coping with this problem. He's doing badly with people who earn less money, that he has taken a series of economic positions more and more unacceptable to those people. So just this past Friday, he gave a big speech in Detroit in which he said not only is he in favor of preserving the Bush tax cuts, which is pretty much a consensus view among Republicans, he also wants to have yet another, on top of that, another high-income tax cut. That was supposed to save his position, but of course it only made it worse because there's no money in that for the people who are not voting for him, the under 50,000 people who've been hit so hard in this terrible, calamitous recession. Michigan's coming out of the recession a little bit, but it's gone from having 14% unemployment to 9% unemployment. I guess that's improvement, but 9% is still pretty terrible.
Frank, I mean, Rick Santorum, a lot of the Republican establishment said this guy's unelectable because he represents a kind of social conservatism that doesn't have broad appeal. In other words, he can't take on Barack Obama. But Mitt Romney can't seem to rally the Republican base. What is going on here, Debra? Tonight, what question should we keep in mind as we watch the race in Michigan and we watch the race in Arizona as we head to Super Tuesday?
First off, does Mitt Romney get it? And I mean that from a voter perspective, not from a political perspective. Does someone who makes, as David says, $45,000, $50,000 a year, do they believe that Mitt Romney understands them and their anxiety, their fears, and to them? That's number one. Number two, can Romney make a cogent case for economic freedom that includes Bain Capital, his former employer, and explains the importance of economic freedom to an electorate that's really mad at Wall Street, really mad at the bankers, and not particularly trusting of corporate America? And number three, and this is where a running mate's going to become very important, does he have the ability to set a context that isn't just about Barack Obama's successes and failures, but demonstrates an alternative vision that will basically transcend the classes so that he has something for someone who makes $35,000 a year as well as someone who makes $3.5 million a year?
David, as the economic news, it's not improving dramatically, but it's definitely going slightly better at this moment for Obama. Let's not make too many predictions. Some Republicans are nervous that the narrative that Mitt Romney says, I want to fight this about the economy, that may not work for them, which may be fueling Rick Santorum's campaign, which is, I'm different. I'm not this kind of liberal like Barack Obama. I'm a social conservative. How do you balance those two narratives and what may play out as eventually this has got to turn into a run against Obama for the Republicans?
Right. Well, I think in many ways Mitt Romney would have been better starting from where he was 6 months ago than from where he is today. 6 months ago, here's how I think you could have done this. You could have said the economy is recovering, but not strongly. The gains are not very well shared. For the more affluent people, the recession is largely over. For the other 95% of the country, it's really not. And once you get below to the bottom 60% and the bottom half of the population, times remain terrible. Mitt Romney could have said, said, look, I'm Mr. Fix-It. I'm Mr. Turnaround guy, and hey, I'm the guy who brought about a universal health care plan in my state of Massachusetts before Barack Obama was able to do it, and I am a candidate who truly can send class differences and represent everybody. The problem was he got crowded into becoming the champion of this militant ideology, anti-government ideology of the Tea Party, where he's now endorsed the Ryan plan that withdraws Medicare guarantees from people under 55, and now the one tax cut and now a second tax cut aimed at the top. That's not where and no one believes it. It seems insincere when he says it. So he's got a double whammy. He's chasing the hard right vote in the Republican Party. They don't believe him, but meanwhile he's moving away from the people who are most distressed. And they vote in Republican primaries too.
All right, the one thing you should never predict is the future, but let's predict the short future. I got about 10 seconds here. David Frum, then Frank Luntz. Who comes out of Michigan and Arizona heading into Super Tuesday? David.
Well, I think even if Mitt Romney ekes out a small victory, as Frank said, he needed a big victory here, and the question mark hangs over his head. Santorum may be done by lack of money, but that Romney is like one of those exercise machines where you pull against your own weight. He is fighting himself, not Santorum.
It's one of those exercise machines everyone buys but no one uses in the basement. Frank Luntz.
Romney wins by 3 in Michigan. I'd say he'll win by 16 in Arizona. So he'll be the marginal winner tonight, and then on Super Tuesday, when 10 states vote, at least 3 of those 10 states will not be voting for Mitt Romney, and so this election will not be over tonight, and it will not be over next week. Let's just hope that it's over by next summer.
Wow, brokered convention. Maybe we'll talk about that. David Frum, Frank Luntz, we are all watching that tonight. I appreciate your time and your perspective on what is turning into a fascinating race. They almost always are. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.